it's Stacy with So Steady, and I'm super excited to have Ann Moore with us today. And we are going to be diving into some awesome information about an upcoming class and an amazing template set that you made. Isn't that right, Ann?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So, Ann, I'm going to have your screen pop up here, but we're going to be sharing some information about this great class that you have the opportunity to take advantage of, as well as Ann's going to show you just kind of everything that you're going to be able to learn and maybe even show off some of those awesome templates. Is that right?
Yes, I have them laid out, ready to go.
Okay, so we are for because we like to give things away. Our giveaway today is going to be an entry into the class. So we do ask if you would like to go ahead and take advantage of this class, go ahead and like, comment, and share, and then we're going to be picking one lucky winner that will be able to have a free entry into the class, which includes a handout that will give you all the information that you need to be able to kind of get the supplies and everything going for the class. So, and go ahead and share a little bit more about maybe what you've got behind you, because that's just
Okay,
gorgeous.
I would be happy to. I asked So Steady a few months ago if they would put together a ruler set for me. And so they did, and it's called Flower Power. Well, I used Flower Power in Annie's sampler. A lot of you have seen that one and maybe have even been maybe taken the first class from it. And so they put this ruler set together, and I got it, and I taught a class from it. We all had a great time with it. And then I took it and said, you know what? I think I can go a step further with this. So I did. I've got this whole quilt behind me. Let me see if I can adjust this a little bit so you can see more of it. Every single square is different in here. And I love to put bold fabrics that y'all all know that by now about me, that I love bold, bright fabrics. Well, it's really hard for your quilting to show up on a really fun printed fabric, but I wanted to bring some into it anyway. So what I did was the template method where we actually you quilt everything and then you cut away and reveal everything that you would like to expose. So this is what I did with all of these. We're going to roll out 2 of these blocks a month. The first month, and I think it's February.
February 5th.
Okay, February the 5th. We'll do this block, and I have to still look at the names of them because I literally just finished this quilt a couple of days ago. So I've got my cheat notes in front of me. We're going to start with Mandala, Eclipse, and Orbit. And those will be the 2 blocks that we will be starting with. Now, there's a fun little thing about this. Whenever you get ready to make up your blocks for this block and this block are very similar, even though they don't look like it right here. I use pretty much the same, well, of course, I use flower power for it, but this flower right here and this flower right here are all, I just use the same thing, but I changed up how I embellished it. So that's going to be a fun way that we're going to start out with the quilt, with this quilt. Now I want to go through and tell you all of the names of the blocks, and like we said, you'll get to see these blocks as we start rolling them out. So Mandala Eclipse, Starry Nights, Orbit. Let me flash this down a little bit. And this one is called Supernova. Here we have, and I have to look at it, this is Butterfly Moon. Can you see that? This is Blast Off. And in a minute, I'll tell you how all of these names came about. This is Neptune Nights. Let me raise this up a little bit. And this is Milky Way. And then we move over and we have, let me step to this side because you don't need to see me, you need to see the quilt. This is Spin Out. Notice it's got little spinning things over here. And then we have Galaxy. Then we have Flowers in Orbit. And then the last one, and let me roll that down a little bit so you can see it. This one is called Space Station, and this is probably my favorite of all of them. I sat down with a piece of paper and just kind of drew out what I wanted and then put it actually on my fabric. So I'm really excited that we're going to be working on this block set, on this quilt. Now, this is a lap size, but there's no reason why you couldn't come up with blocks of your own and add to it and make this quilt bigger and bigger and bigger, as big as you want to. I use the quilt as you go method to put it all together. These right here. So all I worked with originally were 14-inch blocks, and then I cut them down to 12.5-inch blocks and put them all into the quilt. So the quilt can go as big as you want it to. So now let's go around the corner. I'm going to show you the templates that we used.
Excellent. And then we did have a couple questions. Someone
Sure.
wanted to know if we could get closer to those borders. And then someone else was asking, they said that they've not done Temply, and that they asked if it was for first timers.
Yes, you will love Temple. Okay, does that get you closer to the borders?
Yes, that's gorgeous.
Okay, this is one of the rulers that's in that Flower Power set. The only thing that I used that was not in the Flower Power set was a little guy right here, and the little circle is included, but I used this little tool called an outer rim tool, and that will be on the website so that you're able to purchase it. It's not expensive, and don't laugh at me, but I don't use it in the way that it was intended. I think it was more for a drawing tool, but I actually do a little bit of finagling with it, and I attach my circle maker to it, and then I can make
Really?
a perfect
Well,
circle
I
and a
was
perfect
curious
circle.
when you told me that it was a template. And I thought, I don't think that's supposed to be a template, Anne. Tell me
It's
more.
not. It's not. It's supposed to be a drawing tool, but it works great. You can use, oh gosh, you can use the hearts. You can use circles, any size circle you want to. There's just a lot of our templates that attach to that very, very nicely with just a piece of clear tape. So yeah, I get real high tech with it. So these are things that you can do. And of course,
Excellent.
when we get to blocks like this, I'm going to show you how I did that. And the weekend that I taught, oh, in November it was, I had a bunch of my friends and I taught at a retreat. And I took about, I don't know, 10 or 15 of the outer rim tools with me so that any of the ones that wanted to buy that could. I came home with maybe two or three of them. So, yeah, they were a really popular tool to use and fun and easy. And like I said, we will get into that when we get into like this block right here. But yeah, this is just it's actually a border tool. But if you can look, let me bring this down here a little bit. It doesn't have to be just for borders. This is that same template right here. All I did was the template comes in two sizes, and I only used one size to do it. And then I used it again. See if I can get up here a little bit. Yeah, let me hold this up a little higher too. Okay, see that? I used it again, but I used it in the two different sizes. Now, I don't always just work in loud, bright colors. I need a gift for the first week in February. So I'm working on a square table runner for some friends of ours that we're going to stay with. I'm going to be teaching a class, and I wanted a gift to take with me. So here is Flower Power again, and I'm using it on a table runner. So, and I've got a long table runner down below that I made with it and have actually taught that in the class. I don't know if I can get this rolled down enough so that you can really see it's a little bit longer. But I just thought, you know what? I know they've got a great big table and I don't know what size I need to make it. So let's just make a square one and that way she can put it wherever she wants to.
It's just beautiful. And one of the things that I think will be really cool to know is, you've got tons and tons of free motion in some of these blocks too. Will
I
you be teaching them how to do some of that free motion?
I will. And some of the ones that I've used in here, they're really, really simple. I mean, everybody should recognize this. It's just stippling. This is pebbles. I don't call them circles because they are not round at all. They're more like a pebble. And then, of course, I've got just a swirl. So the ones that I'm going to teach you are very, very simple. There's nothing complicated about them. And this one's also going to have a little bit of reveal to it in some crucial places. But isn't that beautiful? That's just a
Oh, I love that. Someone just said something you're going to love. They said, now I know how I'm going to use my outer space fabric.
There you go. Well, let me tell you how. Okay, now I'm glad you brought that up. Let me tell you how this quilt came about. I started making, and I probably started with this one right here. And as I kept working and these ideas kept coming into my head, I kept thinking, this kind of looks like an outer space type theme. So I had a couple of names picked out for just a couple of the blocks, and I got my husband to come in here, and I said, I want to, name these blocks because we're going to be using them in a class. So can you help me with that? Well, he's really good at that. He's real good at telling me, what names should go on what. He's also real good about telling me how I should quilt things. Now, mind you, the man doesn't know anything about how to quilt a quilt, but he does like to come and tell me how I should quilt mine. And sometimes he has really good ideas, and sometimes I have to say, well, the quilt spoke to me too, and this is what he or she wanted. So anyway, he came up with some of the ideas for the names for me too. And I kept telling him, to me, I'm seeing a like an outer space type thing whenever I was looking, because I like, look, this looks like it's kind of swirly. So this one got the name Orbit. See if you can see that. Yeah, I didn't have it. This
Yeah,
one
that's a
got
little
the
better.
name Orbit because of these little guys right here. And then, okay, we've got flowers. Okay, well, let's get flowers in space. So here we go. Those are flowers in orbit. Just different things came into my head, and they came out. At first, a lot of them came out on paper. I am a big believer, Stacy, in using our tools that we have. We have the drawing disc that we use. Um, and I don't have any right in front of me. They're somewhere around here though, but I am such a believer in using those because, as you know, fabric is averages $11 to $12 a yard. Well, if I can draw it out on paper first, then I can get all those little fine details worked out before I ever go to my quilt. And to me, that kind of saves a little bit of money by doing that. And I can also fine tune something that I'll come up with an idea and I'll think, oh, this looks just fantastic. And then you draw it out on paper and you're like, no, I don't think that's really going to work like I thought it was going to work. So to me, it's kind of a money saver too. And so use the tools we even have. So Steady has some kits that you can use to actually draw out your patterns. And they've got, I don't know, papers that have lines drawn on them. They've got plastic, they're like plastic papers that have things drawn into
Oh,
them.
our design guide. Yeah, we do
Yeah,
have
your
that
design
full
guide.
design
That's what I
kit.
was
Yeah.
trying to with. So that you're not out there just trying to do this by yourself. You have some guidelines to use too. So yeah, I have fun with it. I actually carried the. I use a roll of paper that I got from my newspaper office. They sell their little end rolls, and they're not little. They have a lot of paper left on them, and so I go buy those. And I carried one with me to the retreat this past week, and everybody was like, "What are you going to do with that?" I said, "Draw." So anyway, okay, so I'm going to take you around the corner now and show you a couple of things like the template set that we're going to use. I probably will show you how I drew out one of the template designs, and then maybe we'll do a little bit of quilting. What do you think about that?
That sounds awesome, Anne. We've been fielding a whole bunch of questions that have come through. Lots
Oh,
of people
awesome.
want to know about, kind of how the class series works, how many classes in total. So I shared with them that it's planned out as 6 classes in total, with the first class being on February 5th. We did try to make most of the classes the first Friday of the month. The big question is, if you can't make it to that Friday class or one of them, can you, still access it? And you'll be able to access that class for up to 4 weeks after
Mhm.
it's videoed. So someone actually did say they just want to make it all right now. They think they could pull this off in 4 weeks.
Hey, go for it. All right, I'm trying to get my camera flipped around and it's not cooperating.
Not
Okay,
a
here we go. Here we go. I got it.
okay.
Oh,
So
let's
yeah,
see.
I was gonna say
Camera.
that
Let's turn
because
this
the class
around.
series is being hosted live, we are, the classes have not officially been recorded yet. So we would love to be able to have you just buy it all right now and watch all the recorded classes. But this is going to be, recorded and hosted live. So you have the opportunity to go ahead and join the live and then watch the recorded after you join each of the lives.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to raise this a little bit more so that I can get more on top of my little fabric stash I have here. Okay. Okay, remember I told you I drew out my design first? Well, I wanted to show you kind of how that looks. And let me step out of the shadow. Hopefully most of y'all can see that. And I, I call myself a lazy quilter, but it's really not so much a lazy quilter. I love working in a 12.5-inch block. Well, guess what also just happens to be the size of the blocks I like to use? This little guy right here. So I cut my fabric 14 by 14. And then I draw, this is 12.5 inches, so I draw all the way around it, and that I know is that's what my block design is going to be. And then I will start drawing in my lines, and you see them, I've got them right here. I've kind of erased some of them a little bit or drawn them in lightly. But then I work from that. Now, if I need a block bigger or smaller, well, of course I can do that. But for this project, I wanted a good size lap quilt. So that's how this came about. And to me, it's just, you can get 3 fabric cuts from one, fabric is about 44 inches wide. So I can get 3 cuts across there with a little bit of excess. What I do with that excess is I'll make me a quilt sandwich, a little one, and that's what I use to make sure that I have my tension exactly like I want it. It's also how I would test out my thread and make sure that it's a good match for what I want to do. So that sandwich is made out of all of the fabrics and the batting that I'm going to use in that block. So here we go. This is I would use my 12.5-inch ruler. I swear by that thing. And then here's my design that I drew out, and it's actually one of it's a mandala eclipse. And this is mandala eclipse. Okay, so let's pull this out of the way. This is what I would come up with to actually quilt. And I need a bullseye here in the middle, but I don't need all 8 of these crossing in the middle. That's just not a big deal to me. Here would be a reveal fabric. And if you'll notice, I have a fusible on the back of this. This one happens to be Wonder Under, but check with your store. They all carry really good brands of fusibles. So see what they have in stock. And I heard a little bird say that we may start carrying some, maybe even on our website. So kind of stay tuned and keep posted for that. That may show up. Okay, here's my batting. And then here is my back. And of course, I've drawn on it, so ignore that. But I use a lot of grunge because I've got grunge is a 2-for-1 fabric. This is actually the inside or the back of the fabric. And then here is the other side of the fabric. So either side of this would work absolutely perfect for what I'm doing. Now I chose to use this particular fabric for the back of my entire quilt because I think it's so much fun. I love what Grunge has done with their fabric, and I love that they've made it a 2-for-1. So,
Someone was asking what weight of
mhm.
fusible you're using.
Oh, okay. This is Wonder Under. It's by Pellon, and it's the 725. There's also an 805, and it's really good too. I prefer a little bit heavier, which is the 725, especially if I'm going to use it as a wall quilt because I want that good stability in it. If I'm going to use it for a bed quilt or a bed throw or something like that, I would probably want a lighter fusible. So just keep that in mind because this one's it's substantial. It's pretty thick. It's not, crazy thick or anything like that, but it's really good. Okay. I'm going to just show you a little bit of these. This is Mandala Eclipse. This is where I really got it kind of started really good. And then let's see, this is Mandala Eclipse underneath. And this is where I've gone in and put in the little tiny circles. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about these little tiny circles. I discovered those things are really hard to cut out. And let's talk about cutting them out. I use a scissors with a serrated edge on it. My personal favorite is Karen K. Buckley's, and you have to use the ones with the green handle, and I can't tell you how long they are. I just know there's a green handle, there's a purple handle, there's a turquoise handle. I know them by that because I don't really keep the paperwork that comes with them. So anyway, these little guys are really hard to cut out. So if you'll notice in a lot of my work, these little circles are not cut out, and the reason being they are hard to cut. Is it doable? Absolutely. A friend of mine, she saw my work at the retreat, and so she started playing around with her rulers because she has the Flower Power set of rulers too. And she said she actually did cut out her little circles, and she said, "I do agree with you, though they are hard to cut out." I'm going to show you, I'm going to get in a little bit further in here, and I'm going to show you that fabric I showed you a couple of minutes ago. Here is some of it revealed. I always look for a fabric. I notice whenever I'm looking through a magazine or looking online or something, bright colors catch my eye. Maybe I'm part monkey, I don't know, but I love bright things. And so I'll always look for a fabric that's got like a really bright contrast to it, especially if it's going to be a teaching tool. Not so much if I'm giving it as a gift or something like that. I try to choose something that I think that the recipient of the gift would really appreciate. And the friends we're going to see, I know she has a lot of neutral colors in her house. So that's why I chose the neutral colors. Plus, I had my husband standing by me saying, "You can't give her a purple one. You've got to give her something that will match her house." So, okay, there's that too. Now, my sister, she likes boho chic. She'll probably get a quilt with something like this in it, and those would be her colors. So, yeah, she's probably going to get that. I brought out some fabric, and if we have time, we'll play for just a few minutes. I'm going to draw my square on here or just draw some lines.
So, Anne, there was a question. Every
Sure.
block is 14 by 14. Is that right?
Every block starts as 14 by 14. Now this one's a little bit bigger, a little bit wider because I just pulled it out of my stash. But normally, yes, I cut all of my blocks to 14 by 14. The reason I do that is when you're quilting, and especially when you're quilting small things in areas like when I do my free motion quilting, that draws your fabric in as you're quilting it. So you're not going to end up with an exactly 14 by 14 square when you're done. It's probably going to be 13 and 3/4 or 13 and a half, depending on how much stitching you've put in it. So then I come back with my square and I use my cutter, my rotary cutter, and I will lay it down, square it up, line it up, make sure everything is good. And then I'm going to come around the corners and I'm going to cut away exactly and leave exactly 12 and a half inches. So it makes it much easier on my part. I don't have to go get a cutting ruler and measure from here to here and go, okay, that's exactly 6 1/4 inches. From here to here, that's exactly 6 1/4 inches. I don't have to do all of that. All I have to do is line it up on my quilt, and here I'll do one and show you. All I have to do is line up my lines. See, here's my lines back in here. Line those up. There's my center. And then I've got some lines out here, but like I said, they're actually going to be, it's going to be shrunk in a little bit. So now I would take my rotary cutter and cut all the way around this. And that's my 12 1/2 inch block.
I love it. So
So,
easy. We were actually doing that yesterday. We were cutting down a bunch of our mystery sampler blocks, and
mhm.
one of the gals suggested I needed a 6 inch square
Yeah,
because it was kind of an eyeballing using the cutting mat. It was a tedious task.
it is hard. It,
Yeah,
it really is because you've got, all these lines on your mat. And then you've got all the lines on the rulers. And I don't know if y'all have noticed or not, but there aren't very many rulers that a 6 1/2 inch ruler is exactly a 6 1/2 inch ruler on another ruler. We were talking about that at the retreat, about you should use the exact same ruler when you're cutting, exact same mat if you're going by the numbers on the mat. And I thought, you're right, because when I was cutting out some pieces, they were a tiny bit off. And I thought, well, that's probably not going to be that big a deal. But when you're trying to put it all together as a quilt, it is a big deal. So I thought, well, note to self, always remember, stay true to what you use. And that's, this ruler right here that's why I do a 12 1/2 inch block, because that makes it just easier for me to remember and easier for me to do. And also out here, and you'll see there's little 12 1/2 inch lines all in here. I call this little area out here no man's land. Which means I'm going to be cutting that away and getting rid of it. So if I want to stitch in here and back out, come down to the next one, in and out, I can do that because this is all going to be cut away. And that way, if you think about it, if I were cutting my thread, I would have a tail probably about from here to here, and then start up again with a tail about that long. So I'm not wasting any thread at all. And it's just much faster to get from this point to this point and come back again, and then come around that corner, and I'm in no man's land. So it's going to be cut away. It's no big deal. So I love
excellent.
this.
We've got a lot of questions on what supplies you use for the class. So maybe before you go today, you can kind of lay out the required supplies, things you have to be able to
Okay.
do it.
Let me grab that list really quick. And I believe, Stacy, am I right? That's going to be on the website.
Yeah, so some of these would you say are required, or would you say some of these are, suggested?
Um, I'll talk about that as we go. Okay, I've got three 14 by 14 squares of fabric. That's your top fabric, your reveal fabric, and your back layer of fabric. One 14 by 14 piece of iron-on fusible. Now I actually cut this down a little bit. I make it maybe 13 and a half by 13 and a half, simply because I never want to get fusible on my ironing board. And if I have gotten it, if my blocks are 14 by 14, but one of them is not I might have a little overhang with the fusible or something. I don't want that on my ironing board. So I'll cut it down to like 13 by half by 13 and a half. And you're going to cut all that away anyway. So we can correct that on this on the supplies, whatever. You've got to have a 14 by 14 piece of, and I use cotton batting, but that's your choice, whatever you'd like to use. And I used a medium thickness on this. You need the Westerly Flower Power Template Set. And to me, that's really important because they've put all of these rulers together for us. And I'll show you those in a minute. And it's got everything in it that you're going to need. And we had a friend recently, we were going to work on her continuum quilt. And she pulled out all of her rulers, and she didn't have one single ruler that was in the continuum set. So we ordered her a set of rulers. So if you order the set of rulers, you have everything that you need as far as the rulers go, with the exception of the outer rim tool. And we will be adding that. Okay, you need the 8-point crosshair ruler, and I mentioned I use the 12 and a half size because I use it to cut my blocks down also. So I really recommend that you get that. It's not required, but you're going to have to do more work if you don't have it. Ruler work glider. Um, I don't quilt without one. And this week while I was at retreat, I had one with me, of course, and I used it. But I would switch back and forth between doing some plain stitching, like when I was putting the quilt together, and then I would get back to quilting, and I would have this drag, and I'd think, what's going on? And I'd look down, oh yeah, guess who forgot to put her glider back on? So of course I pulled it out and put it back on. That's how big a difference it makes whenever you are quilting. There's a drag. I don't care how much you polish your surfaces and things like that. To me, the ruler work glider is the bomb. It's what I use, and I swear by it. And I use it all the time. And they even have one that's a grid glider. I'll show you that one too. I use this when I am piecing because there again, I still have a little bit of drag, and I don't have the drag whenever I use my grid glider, and it leaves my feed dogs revealed. So that's for piecing. It's awesome. Okay, spacing gauge. You are going to use your spacing gauge. So yes, please get one. Your Clover Choco liner or a similar marking tool, and I'm using mine as a pointer today. This is the Clover one. I have added iron off um, chalk to mine, or I actually replaced it with that. You don't have to do that. It's just something I did because that way I can iron it off. It's just as easy though to get off if you just brush it off. I use like an old toothbrush or something. Sorry, my dog thinks she needs to come in, so that's what you're hearing. Anyway, so Choco liner, if you want to use a friction pen, go ahead. Just remember that it doesn't come off as easily. And this may end up being a show quilt for you, and you don't want your quilt to show up in Houston or wherever and have black lines in it. I know people that have had that happen to them, so I've kind of gone to just the Clover Choco liners. So to me, very, very important. A flat sewing surface such as a Sew Steady table. A Sew Steady table or the insert if you are in a machine in a cabinet. They're very, very important. So much so that every machine I own has a table because they're that important to me. And I was working this week at the quilting retreat, and I had a table, and I thought, wow, this is so handy because I don't have to worry. I've got all of this workspace. So that's important. Small, sharp pointed scissors, preferably with a serrated edge. And as I mentioned, I use Karen K. Buckley, but others will do if you have another preference. Sewing machine in good working order. I can't emphasize that enough. I can't tell you how many times I've come into a classroom to teach and everybody's brought their own machine, and that's great. But invariably, you'll have one that says, Oh, this has been in the closet for the last 3 years. I haven't pulled it out to use it for anything. Okay. Well, I say a little prayer right there that we don't have a problem with that machine because I want my students to have a happy experience. So do test out your machine and make sure that it is going to work for you. Your usual sewing supplies, I usually use those little clips. I forget what they're called, but they're just like a little red clip or blue. They make them in all different colors now. You can also use pins if you want to, but I find they kind of get in the way and you have to stop and take them loose and all. And the clip's just a little one-handed thing, so that's what I use. Um, your sewing machine needles, of course, you want a needle that's a top stitch needle is really good, a 12 or a 14. Mostly a 14 is the best, and top stitch has a good sharp point to it, so it's going to pierce your fabric really, really well. Approximately 4 yards of solid fabric if you're going to make the entire quilt, approximately 3 yards of reveal fabric, and I always buy a little extra because invariably there's something else I want to do with it, or maybe I want to make it bigger. And a lot of times when you go back to buy another yard of it, somebody else liked it too, and it's all gone. So keep that in mind. Always just buy an extra yard. Twin size batting, and you're going to have leftovers, but that's okay. If you start with plenty, then you don't have to worry about running out. And maybe you've got a medium thickness, and the one you when you run out, you have to go to a thin thickness, and it's going to show up in your quilt that you had to go to a different batting. Pins or clips, have those. Um, if your fusible is about 17 or 18 inches wide, you're going to need about 5 yards of it. And it's not expensive, it's a couple of dollars a yard, so keep that in mind. And if you're going to do borders and you don't want to piece it, you're going to need about 10 or 11 yards of the fusible. And that's so that you can make a long straight cut of the fusible. It says here I use Pellon Wonder Under number 725. 805 works great also, but please check with your store. They have their own brands and there are some really good ones out there. This one just happens to be easier for me to have access to. So, and then the blocks are layered in this fashion. You're going to have your 14-inch backing fabric, then a layer of batting, your 14-inch reveal fabric, and then your 14-inch top fabric with the fusible ironed onto the back side and paper peeled away. Please peel the paper away. It's really important. And follow the instructions on the fusible and you should get a really firm grip on your fusible. So that's what I always do. I always mark my top layer before I pin all of the pieces together or before I clip them all together. It's just a little bit easier that way. You don't have all that thick batting that you are trying to draw lines through. And so that will be shown in class also. And then the next piece of paper on it tells you the block names and what the columns and all. And then the borders will be on your own, but by the time you get through with the quilt, you're going to have a border in mind that you would like to do. And I also ask you if you would please post your pictures on Westerly by me so that we can all see them and get inspired by what you're doing. And if you come up with an idea of a different way to embellish it, we'd love to see that. Yeah, I love looking at other people's quilts and getting inspiration from them. So there we go. And then here's the quilt. And when I put, okay, tell me who all has done this by maybe a show of hands or something. I put the sleeve on a couple of nights ago and hung it, and then I was looking at the picture and I thought, I have it upside down. It doesn't matter on the quilt because there aren't any blocks that, have to be a certain way. And a friend of mine at the quilt retreat said, "Oh, I did that to one that was going to be in a show." And she said it hung sideways in the show. And she said, "I thought that was so odd." And then she said, "I looked on the back and saw what I had done, put the sleeve on the side instead of the top." So, yeah, we all make mistakes.
I love
So,
it. Well, it's funny that you say that, Anne, because when you had it hanging today, I thought, oh, I thought the butterflies were at the top.
yep, they are. And
That
so,
butterfly moon was at the top, and then today it was
I
at the
know.
bottom.
Well,
Yeah.
most of the time, you're going to see it on my design wall. So I will have it set up the way it is in the photo instead of the way that I put the sleeve on. And it's not stitched down in the back. The binding is not. So there's still a debate going on as to whether or not that's actually going to be taken out and actually corrected.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we'll
We'll see.
see.
We'll keep our fingers crossed on how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
So, someone asked, "Is this class suitable for ruler work for beginners?"
I think that it will be. Absolutely.
And then each class is about 2 hours. Is that right?
That is right.
Okay. Excellent.
Okay. I am laying out the rulers for you too. Now, and I just saw this on our website. We have these great little arrows. I don't know how many of you have ever marked your rulers with a felt tip pen like a Sharpie, and then you spend a while trying to get the marks out so that you don't use them again in the wrong place. Well, I have, and then they came along with these great little these great little arrows, and so they're on our website too, and they are wonderful. So please go get some. This is the Spinifex number 4. It is the mini, and I've used it multiple times on that quilt. Some of them is flowers, and some of them is just cute little designs here and there. So you have a 1.5 and you have a 2.5 inch. Here's the 6-inch arc. I use this a lot. It also it looks great in borders. I used it to make a bunch of the flowers. And there again, I took my little arrows and lined up exactly where I needed the flower to start and stop. Straight ruler, this is a 2.5 by 8. Um, I use that particular size all the time. If I am stitching in the ditch on a quilt, this is a perfect length to use, and it's not so long that it kind of hits you in the stomach as it's going by, and it doesn't hit the back of your table, or not the table, but your insert. If you're using it in a table, it would hit the back of the insert and kind of give you a little bit of a bump. So this is the perfect size for that. This is that between the lines circle. This makes a 1/2 inch circle. And these are so popular, they come all the way up to 2 inches, maybe even bigger, and all the way down to 1/4 inch. So this is very, very handy. And then this is that border, and there are 2 pieces of it. That's why it says there's a 6-piece set, and you look in there and you think you only have 5. Well, these come apart. It also looks like somebody's ear too, but this is the bigger one, and then of course the smaller one. I've not figured out how I could use this, but I'm still working on it. I think that would be kind of handy for maybe making like curvy lines or something, but I'm still playing with that. But anyway, that is your set of rulers that you're going to use. And here's a picture of it. And this is an actual block from Annie's sampler. And this is what inspired this set of rulers to come out. So go online, grab your rulers, and get ready for these classes. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with them, and they're going to go until we finish the series, and then we're probably going to have something come along behind that.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Anne, for sharing the beautiful quilt and kind of how you did it. You know, someone was asking if you were going to show how you do the cutaway, and you know that'll absolutely be shown in the class. I don't know if you had any intention of showing how to do a little cutaway today. Uh, uh,
If we have time, yes, I could.
okay. Well,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, we're you can certainly spend a couple minutes maybe just showing them how easy that can be.
Okay. Yeah, in fact, I've kind of kept this one a whole so that I could do that. Let me grab my scissors. Here's a pair of those scissors that I was telling you about. This is the Karen K. Buckley. The first thing I'm going to do is take a seam ripper, and you need a pretty sharp one. That goes under the usual sewing supplies. And I probably should put that on there as broken out. I'm going to grab a pair of glasses. And the first thing I want to do is in here, I want to pick up, let's get this up where you can see it. I want to pick up just maybe 2 or 3 threads. There's a reveal fabric underneath, and I do not want to cut into it. Okay, so I've got it, and I feel like I'm just under, I'm not into the reveal fabric. I'm just going to show it. Okay, peel that back a little bit. Okay, and I can see a little bit of the color under here.
Do you know if all of Karen's
There we
scissors
go.
are serrated?
I don't know that, but I have 3 of the pairs. Here are her bigger ones, and these have a serrated edge. These I don't really use whenever I'm cutting away this, unless I've got a great big area, and then you can. And I love this because my hand fits in it really well. I use the little green ones a lot, and they're smaller. And so a lot of times I'll end up with this finger right here and then these 2 fingers in here. And that makes a really comfortable fit because there's a lot of work to this. And now what I've done, I can see that my reveal fabric is underneath and I haven't accidentally punched into it. Sometimes I do, and I fix it when I do. And I usually do that with glue if I can. All right, and then I just come over here and clip into the edge, and I want to leave about about a 16th of an inch, or maybe even a little more. And so I'm going to try to keep my fingers out of this where I can show you. And I just clip around that edge, get to the point, flip your work. And this is another reason why you want to do this in squares instead of a great big quilt. I can flip that. I can get right back in that little corner and come all the way around. I just peeled a part of it away. And just be careful and be really mindful and check and make sure you're not into your reveal fabric. Because all you want to do is reveal it. You don't want to cut it away. And I remember the first time I did this, I I cut into it pretty often. So my work that I was doing got some really free motion embellishments into it because I needed something to cover it up with. Okay, and that's all you do. And see, I've got one revealed. And I'll come in and I'll clean up the edges a little bit. And then I'm going to take a hot iron and put down on top of it just to seal those edges, because otherwise I can run my finger under there, and you don't want to be able to do that. You want that laid down really well. So that's all we do.
Excellent. So someone was curious, how does it hold up when you wash it?
Well, I do a little trick when I do these. Normally, this is one single row of stitching. A lot of times when I do these, I'll do 3 rows. I would be really careful with washing it, and if you think it's going to be a quilt that's going to be washed a lot, don't cut away as much. Leave a little bit wider section maybe, and just kind of be mindful. These are more for like a wall hanging or something that's not going to get washed really often. But leave a wider border if you do plan on washing it. And it's going to get a little frayed edge to it, but that's okay. That's part of it.
Yeah, that's kind of the applique part.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just out of curiosity, on all of these designs, they're going to go ahead and use a 14 by 14 block. So in total, there are 12 blocks. Is that right?
Yes, there are 12 blocks.
And then do you give them the information as far as the border too?
I will, as we get farther into it, if they want the information about the border, sure. It's easy to do, and we can work on that.
Someone was asking what kind of glue you use to fix your boo-boos, your errors.
It depends on the error. If it's one I know is never going to be washed, then I would probably use a washable like Elmer's school glue. If I did need it to be permanent, though, I would use a permanent glue. Or I would go in there and stitch around on, stitch a little design into it and just leave it that way too. That would work great.
Excellent. And then it says pressing only after the reveal has been completed, right?
Absolutely, yes. You do not want to press it before that, because what happens is you have to pry it loose. So, yeah.
Excellent. And so I think that we answered most of the questions. Someone was asking what the advantage of having serrated scissors is, and if they have them available in left-handed.
You know what? These are left or right-handed, either one. So it doesn't matter. I'm actually a lefty, but I cut with scissors with my right hand because when I was growing up, they weren't so readily available. So yes, they work either hand. And yeah.
Excellent. Well, we really appreciate you showing us all of this today, and you showed us the rulers. So, I feel like we've covered everything. I don't see any other questions coming through that I haven't been able to answer in the chat. So I have posted a link to the email where you can actually scroll down and click the link to sign up from one of the stores that we have that are participating across the country. So if you don't see one near you, then I suggested you could just pick the one with your favorite name. No.
There you go.
But you will get an email follow-up that will give you that handout for all of the supplies that you need to get ready for the class. That'll immediately drop into your email box when you sign up for the class. You're also going to get a follow-up email with a coupon code for exclusive discounts that you'll be able to take advantage of for signing up, and it will be tied to one of those dealers that you signed up through. So we are offering the exclusive discounts through our participating stores only. So that's why I'm encouraging you to take advantage of signing up from one of those stores, because then you get the extra discount. So so hopefully you'll be able to do that. I'll post another link again to the sign up email that we sent earlier today. Hopefully you'll be able to open that. If not, you can find the sign up page on our website as well. So definitely get in there. No matter where you're at in the world, you're able to participate, because this is a virtual class. So as many of you know, we've been doing a lot of virtual education, and this is just another one of those opportunities. So this class is going to be hosted on February 5th at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. But that will be available for you to watch via YouTube as a recorded session for up to 4 weeks after that, as many times as you want. So you can, pause and rewind and rewatch every step she makes throughout that process and be able to recreate these designs. And then you'll have a month to cut them away, right?
That's
So,
right.
yeah, a month to get them ready. And then by the end of the class series, if you sign up for all 6 of them, you'll have this gorgeous Flower Power Galaxy quilt to be able to show off and share and all that.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're excited to be able to get this class offered to all of you, and as always, just gorgeous work here. So
Well, thank
excited
you.
to be able to share this with all of our Westerly Design and Ruler Work enthusiasts out there. Did you have anything else you wanted to share today?
I'm looking forward to the class and can't wait for everybody to sign up and let's do this as a quilt along. It will be great.
Excellent.
I'll meet all of y'all there.
Yes, excellent. All right, well, everyone, I'll continue to answer some questions in the Facebook feed, and I'm sure we'll be jumping in there to do the same. So we'll look forward to hopefully being able to do that for all of you. If you're not seeing a complete list of supplies needed on the page right now, the sign up page right now, we'll make sure to get that on there. We want to make sure you know all of the required tools, and then you can look forward to hopefully getting some exclusive discounts on those. So again, thanks so much, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll look forward to having some more information for you on upcoming classes in the next week.
Bye, everybody.